So, from the King of Battles number 2, we have got another couple of replays here to go through. And this is the winners match of the group that we've been covering a little bit. So, if you guys remember, or if you watched, I don't know if you guys watched the games on when we cast them live, or if you watched them on the YouTube uploads. But ByuN came out, as he's the bottom right Terran player, ahead of Serral, and Serral came out ahead of Classic. They were cool games on both sides, and excited to see what happens in the winners match here between Serral and ByuN. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Obviously, casting these from replays, this was an event played kind of just towards the end of November. Obviously, powered by Alpha X, and they had, I believe, G Fuel as a major sponsor for it as well. And the replay pack was up for sale if you guys want to get that. I believe you probably still can pick it up for $10 or so if you would like to go and check it out. So, yeah, go check that out. But otherwise, we'll get this underway. The pool first, even from Serral, so not going to take any risks right away. And of course, if you do enjoy watching these games, if you're on the YouTube channel especially, please do consider hitting the sub button or the like button on the video. Helps us out a bunch. We're trying to get that YouTube channel back rolling again towards the end of December here. See what we can do with it. Thank you for the few pings coming through on the Twitch stream, guys. I will catch up to you guys and everything after this first map. Just want to focus on the games because I think this should be a very fun ZvT and definitely worth watching exactly how the early game plays out a little bit with. As we get set up an SEV coming through the middle, Serral has actually sent a drone out towards the gold. A little bit of scouting there, but can pull back and make that his third, use that for his third hatchery as well. So we'll get that underway in the next couple of moments. And a couple of Lings just going to grab this first SCV that starts to move up the ramp. So, SCV just moving up the ramp a little bit, couple of Lings coming out the other side. And again, just continuing through as a couple of hatcheries. Obviously, the third hatch especially just coming on now and getting that ready to go. Now, reactor comes out on the barracks and the factory is still building as well, so getting all of that online. I'm just going to be seeing our bunker at the high ground here, just going to be setting up as well. So, being very safe because ByuN knows that this was a pool first opening. He knows there's potential for this to, turn into some fast roaches potentially and all the rest of it. So he's been very cautious about that and taking some reasonable precautions about it. That bunker is basically just blindly saying, just in case you do build roaches, I am prepared. I will have something to fight that. As he does make a single Hellion currently off of the factory. No reactor on it at the moment. And he is just going to reactor out Marines to fill the bunker again. Definitely scared of the potential of a roach follow-up here, and Serral just trying to take a very quick early lead. Realizing that the time for seeing roaches moving across or so is passing, though, he's going to cancel the bunker, and he salvage it, get some money back, and we can continue through from there. And this is the winners match of the groups. The winner of this would advance through to the playoffs, while the loser would be into the decider match to take on Serral or Classic. As for now, a Hellion and a Reaper moving around the center. Medevac is on the way, so ByuN going to turn these few Marines into something, a little bit of a drop. In fact, actually going to start up an armory. Going to be an interesting armory, though, as obviously the Hellions are... have not been kind of reacted out from the very start, so it's not like you've got the craziest Hellion count underway right now. That's definitely something of a factor as well. A few Marines back into the main base are going to start tapping away at this Overlord. That will go down in a few moments as well. So this Overlord about full. And we will continue on from there as that Marines will go across the map. Roach is already being made from Serral, so it actually looks as though he's going to have a reasonable defense right from the get-go here. Shouldn't really be too problematic. Just getting that set up as 8 Roaches continue through. Yeah, I mean, Serral looks as though he should be able to defend this very easily. It doesn't mean that Serral's set up to play Roaches from this point on. Now we see ByuN building a Banshee, which obviously against the Roaches is nice. Can work out quite nicely defensively as well, so... yeah, I mean, I like where ByuN is going to. Obviously, I don't like the fact he's set up to do a Hellbat attack, and now he's not really going to be able to do, all that much with it, so... that part of it I'm not so crazy about, but otherwise, I like the follow-ups from there. I like the Banshee, and we'll see if he takes any damage here initially as these first few Roaches do arrive, and The Hellions are just very bravely moving down this ramp and saying, we've got enough Hellions here to actually just jump on you and just to say, nuh-uh, you don't come into our base. And that's actually going to be a pretty reasonable turnaround as well for a while. And then some extra roaches show up, and now Serral's like, well, maybe I actually can just fight back a little bit here as well. So we are seeing a little bit of that back and forth for the moment. And these roaches actually end up clearing out a lot of the Hellions, and it's okay, some medevac micro to keep some units alive at the end as well. It's nice to get rid of the roaches, but I also feel as though you lost a lot of units that maybe could have been useful further down the line here as ByuN. Losing the Hellions means you don't have as much, defense on your third base from run-bys potentially. There's definitely a few things you can look at there. So, a couple of things to look at. Just going to see our burrow coming up. Drones on the way in still. Spore crawls are still building. And a few additional extractors continuing through too, as our roach speed is going to start from Serral as well. So, really is just going to keep on committing to the roaches for now. Intrigued by how he uses the burrow right away here, because it does feel as though the burrow is going to be a lot earlier than anything else that can be super useful. I'm thinking like maybe you go tunneling claws, but obviously you need roach speed done first. The roach roaring is free to upgrade that. Maybe you just use it to block something, but it shouldn't be in time to block the third base going down. So maybe it's just for a bit of information. Gathering, you get some units spread around the map, burrowed, and then you can kind of keep track of your opponent's army movement a little bit more easily than usual. A few possibilities, basically, at the moment, and intrigued to see just which of those really does come out to be the use for that. Several starts, link speed, and 1/1 missile upgrades for roaches and queens. Just going to push those couple of Hellions back. Reaper getting chased away as well. I'm just going to be seeing a few more roaches continuing through here from Serral. Some more and more roaches continuing in. Infestation pit comes up from Serral as well, coming up to being about halfway done. Actually around that bottom side, still just having a little bit of a move. Just keeping an eye on roaches that are moving down that side, right? So that ByuN can start getting some initial damage on them, and even himself just kind of knowing that's going to be there. And that's why I really like that Banshee too. It's not just potential additional defense, but it really does give you some additional information that I feel like you weren't really on your way to having right away either. So with that said, we are stemming forwards, and a couple of creep teamers are starting to go down. Of course, it's going to end up lifting into some medevacs. Too many roaches, and for now, Serral will force this back. Already on his way to infestors, building those before he builds the hive, and the hive den obviously lurkers are the next step of this. But wants to get a few infestors up as a supporting units. Believes he just has the money to do that. And if you do, then I think it's fine. I think it's important to get to the hive quickly, get to the lurker switch quickly, because it takes you away from the very vulnerable composition that is just roaches against marauders and tanks that ByuN is building. So I believe in getting the lurkers up quickly, but I think as long as the few infestors don't slow that down by any heavy margin, because Serral's economy is very comfortable here at Serra, then I'm pretty comfortable with him getting those infestors up, because that they can make a pretty sizable difference. They can be, a cool little addition, and they can get a couple fungals off that can be absolutely game-changing. So definitely worth thinking about. It's going to be seeing a little drop here, not going to be able to do too much. As you just see it having a lift up again, too many roaches. ByuN trying to take control of the map a bit, and I do like at least he's getting some creep spread pushed back. That's going to be a pretty big net positive as well. As our Bioforce moves back away through the bottom. Now a few Marines will unload on the top, but the roaches turn around, and a couple of those Marines already going to hop back into the medevacs. +2 missiles, +2 carapace, both still building into play right now. I'm just going to see those couple of lings coming around the far right-hand side as everything else gets set up as well. Marines move up. I'm just going to grab one Zerglin already. Another scan comes through. Just going to be seeing those roaches showing up, and these Marines are going to start taking quite a bit of damage. So Marines taking some hits on that medevac. Massive fungal growth. Oh my god, kills so many Marines as we do get rid of the turret there as well. Rest of the bio army coming through, and these few roaches are being picked away at. So a few of those roaches starting to go down as well. And now just seeing this Roach Ravager force back onto this set of rocks and clearing that up and just opening the pathway over to the right side. It just feels like Serral has consistently found really good damage. He's trading more efficiently than the Terran player. That's not usually meant to happen. And it's by about 1,000 resources now. They've only traded out 3k versus 2k, so it's not been a lot of trades. But yeah, the trades that have happened have all been about Serral. And I think that's a pretty major issue here for ByuN, that he needs to start making some of these fights actually about him. Otherwise, he really is going to have some issues further down the line. Something he's really going to have to start looking at. So, more ROACH Ravager up to the top. Going to see a few of these SCVs moving forward. A couple of Sensor Towers coming up. Vikings and tanks all coming through. As we do see a few more corrosive vials. Just going to drop on in. And just going to be seeing a little cancel on that Sensor Tower. Going to build one just a step further backwards instead. As the Banshee comes back through, a corrosive vial lands on the Banshee as well, so that Banshee will go down. And the Ravager just... the Ravager just going to pick that off. Now, a couple of Vikings, they want to see what they can do, as the tank does pick off the Ravager there. So, picking off the Ravager from a little way back. The Roger's kind of getting stacked in a corner. There are going to be units to get rid of this Nidus, so ByuN looking like for now he will defend effectively against Serral's initial attempts to be aggressive around the map. Obviously doesn't mine from his gold base just yet, but that's something he can start to fix here in the next few moments. As we'll see, another Nidus just in the center, so Serral just having a nearby reinforcement point / a nearby location he can send units back to, so those units can jump into that Nidus and then obviously pop out of the Nidus if it does get up in the main base, right? So it just gives him a bit more freedom. He doesn't have to keep the lurkers in the Nidus, and then if he wants them on the map, they're all the way back at home, etc. So that's definitely a factor here for sure. As we just see our units again from Serral moving around a little bit. Roaches chasing a medevac away up to the top left-hand corner as well. And a few SCVs probably in some trouble as well, as our lurkers will come forward one more time. And ooh, that's a lot of workers going to go down here. Corrosive Vials dropping as well. 9 SCVs do fall. That's going to be seen. Our Nidus in the top right-hand corner gets picked off as well. So that's another little clean out for the moment. Tank shots still firing away. Lurkers continue to get pushed away from this. And we do see this one lurker hitting quite nicely. Just a couple of SCVs from afar. Serral really, again, just kind of making the most of the little bits and pieces right now. Just saying, oh yeah, you know, I can hit you from back there. Fungal Growth hits the medevacs. We're going to refungal. That keeps the medevac damage going out. And yeah, that actually really hurts. Multiple fungals, and it just drains HP on the medevacs. Obviously kills off a few bio units. Again, Serral still playing efficiently, still more efficient than the Terran player, and Serral has got all bases that are meant to be hit on this in this game. So he's up 2 bases, and well, this might actually turn the efficiency back into ByuN's favor, or even it up for the first time this game, as he's actually losing 20 SCVs. But was that all just over here? Is that just this lurker? Oh my god, he's going to get a stack of SCVs. ByuN, we need to stop this right now. 29 workers go down. Was just a lurker up here as well, getting a few. Just a combination of attacks around the map, suddenly finding some good damage. A few more lurkers still sitting around down the bottom, and we do see the ghosts are going to reconsider where they want to go. Units are making their way through the middle of the map, so making their way out over the right-hand side. Lurkers, Hydras, Vipers, Infestors all moving forward. A tank shot going to hit the Infestors there for a moment. There's a few SCVs are falling, and once more, just Serral moving up and getting himself into a good position, and just going to get himself a few pickoffs using the range of those lurkers. I mean, we've got a ghost count now that in theory should be able to do well. You can see that Serral's trying to keep those ghosts away via the fungals. Nice EMP. So there's only going to be that one fungal growth that goes out, and then 3 ghosts get abducted forward, so the Viper's still delivering. And yeah, I mean, efficiency once again is back in Serral's favor, so he's trading better again. While massacring workers and taking ByuN's economy out of the equation, Serral continues to play a pretty solid first map of ZvT at the moment. We've seen again just units here, there, and everywhere. A game in which Serral really just controlled from the start, right? There's not really much else to add to that, as this lurker will probably go down. I was going to see lurkers burrowing up here. SCVs going down. Tank fire is decent. 7 SCVs falling. The ghosts come through and line up a snipe, so that lurker goes down also pretty much instantly. That's going to be seeing those 7 SCVs falling. Then in the Queen just dropping a little inject down. 8 SCVs, 9 SCVs. All of this continuing to drop off at the moment. The 9 workers going down. This lurker is going to get sieged and killed for the moment. That's just trying to hit the planetary fortress from afar. Now these units trying to still press forward. EMPs on the Vipers right away. A little abduct on one of those siege tanks. And, well, not the prettiest of fights from Serral, but when you've got 8k, 3k in the bank, pretty doesn't necessarily need to be in your vocabulary. Just trades in general are going to be pretty huge factor here. One lurker around the back, just nibbling away at that orbital command. Still just working on this. I'm just going to be seeing the Vipers, the Hydras, and the Lings making up their minds as to what they want to try and do here as well. Feels like there's been a lurker back here for pretty much this entire time. It's been like non-stop, this bit of damage that's been going out. It's been kind of crazy, in all honesty, as I scan around, find a couple of lurkers on the high ground. Gonna get rid of a couple of those. Greater Spy now on the way through from Serral as he figures out just what he wants to do next. So starting to get an answer for that. Playing Bane still moving around the middle of the map as well. Plus 2 melee's about to finish up. The Ghosts are still coming through. Just gonna see that lurker is taking a little bit more damage again as Ghosts still gonna line up and get a snipe in the end. I mean, you gotta start making some moves as ByuN, right? I feel like you gotta stop at least Serral taking this top side base, because that's just economy which you just don't want to have him to have access to. Oh my god, the fungal on the Ghosts. I actually just think the Infestors have found way more fungals than they usually would in this game as well, and that one is deadly as you just crash through the Ghost. Well, that means you can't rebuild those, and we know how important that Ghost count was pretty much all game for helping with the lurkers. I mean, now again, Serral just has the money to rebuild in pretty much an instant, so ByuN is in some serious trouble. This army is pretty much the one threat that he has left over, and it is good army supply from ByuN, but again, there's no rebuild behind it, so if Serral cleans this up, then it is just a done deal. And we are already, you know, pretty much just kind of, I mean, ByuN's already in trouble, right? I don't think there's a world where Serral doesn't clean this up either. I think this is going to be a pretty convincing cleanup, not really much doubt about it. He loses a few drones, but he gets a lot of tanks on the tail end of this. And again, I've said it once, I've said it again, and I'll say it one more time now, that this is just going to be too many freaking units from Serral with too much economy behind it. And ByuN has just not been able to keep enough up all game long. That resource lost is still dead even, which, considering how many bases Serral has had, it's obviously beyond fantastic. There's just this lurker here that's just continuing to hit tanks. That's painful to watch at this stage, quite frankly. I mean, I can't quite believe that lurker is still kind of around. It's just been chipping away at reinforcements for now a good long while. Definitely adding up as Lingbane lurker comes through. We're going to see some ghosts firing. Bio army will turn and fight. Some Lings going down. Just going to see some tank shots going off, and just going to see the lurkers burrowing up again. Banelands are going to come crashing through and just going to go in different directions. Tanks are in some trouble. And Serral is once more basically just clearing out ByuN's army, resetting his supply, and he's just going to start rebuilding. He actually still has like 10 lurkers back here, and ByuN actually can't get rid of those. That will be the point at which this GG's, and Serral takes map 1 of this best of 3. NW. And in the bottom left-hand side, we've got the red Zerg player. It is Serral. Now 2 of this best of 3 that they're playing, the King of Battles groups. Sorry for making you wait for it. As in the top right, our blue Terran from the Shopify Rebellion is ByuN. This time he will proxy. So last time Serral pool firsted, and this time ByuN's going to proxy. So kind of an odd bit of back and forth in that situation. Definitely creates a little bit of intrigue and a bit of fun as to how this will turn out. Let's see if Serral goes for the pool first again, right? Basically, is the question. Or will he play the hatchery first? Now he's in position to take the hatchery first already. A little bit unfortunate for Serral, because if he'd gone pool first again, that's already going to put him in a great spot. Not the end of the world, just would have made life easier considering he'd already done it once in the series. It was possible he does it again. But like I say, maybe that's part of the mind game of ByuN. Gonna do it here on Hardwire. Was the last map Blackburn? I imagine maybe Blackburn was ByuN's pick. This is gonna be Serral's pick. And then, I don't know. I'm intrigued that Serral chooses the map he did to pull first on almost. Well, there is an Overlord moving around, but tell you what, I ain't actually going to see it just yet, so this Overlord is not going to get the info because it turns around. Now, he'll see units moving forward at some stage here, but that's all he's going to be seeing for a little bit, so that's going to be the issue. But he's actually going to be a little bit blind as to what is actually going on. Waited a little bit as well, sent one SCV back home. So now when he pulls one SCV forward initially with this attack. Drones just going to be pulled down to the low ground. I say a few. That's quite a lot of drones pulled down to the low ground here to get defending. Just going to be seeing the bunker setting up, and the Marines will kite backwards. Of course, Spine on the way. This is going to be 3 racks, so you get reinforcements just a little bit faster, and there's already an extra Marine here, making us a couple of drones killed. But we do get the SCV built in the bunker. Now, Lings will be out, so you can try and get this next SCV as well. Of course, Serral losing a lot of mining time during this. But I don't like this at all. He's going to lose multiple Lings, and he keeps moving them. And now the bunker goes up because he didn't put anything on the bunker on the SCV. And this Spine Crawler takes a bunch of damage before it's finished as well. The SCV was actually targetable there. Maybe you could have gotten it, but it doesn't actually happen. And, well, on we go as the Spine Crawler pulls back a little bit. And this is just game over, I think. You pull the drones, and yet this bunker still goes up. You still have the problem of your opponent just being basically right on top of you. I don't actually think you recover from this, unfortunately. As much as I want to cheer for Serral to recover from this, I actually think ByuN might just have this one. Like I said, just difficult to break out of this situation. We'll see what Serral tries to do. I mean, saving the hatch is not necessarily a must. The problem is, usually if you're not going to save the hatch, you just give it up from the start. You don't pull all those drones, etc. So now saving the hatch maybe does feel like a must. With what? You know, he's just got so few Lings. He's got a Spine Crawler that's going to get targeted down in an instant. Yeah, the question really was more than anything, with what was he going to save the hatchery? Well, with nothing at all, basically. ByuN takes game number 2. And we get tied up, actually. 1-1. We will go to a map 3. Right through to the final game of this winner's match of the group. So, winner of this is in the playoffs. The loser actually has a potentially dangerous match as well, right? If Reno ends up in that decider match, then that's somebody that Serral obviously has lost to a fair amount in the past, so something to think about there. As in the top right, our blue Terran player from the Shopify Rebellion is ByuN. I'd just like to take a quick mention. I like to mention this during the game sometimes, for the games that might end up on YouTube and stuff, about the Patreon page, patreon.com/WardiTV. We've been doing a fantastic job of staying at just about 100 patrons recently, and just above 100 patrons, which is fantastic. We've also been able to stay just above around the $700 mark, and just as I mentioned, what we do is we do take everything from Patreon and we put it into the prize pool of WardiTV tournaments. So not this event, this is not a WardiTV event, but like I say, it's a great way to support the stream, especially if you're watching on YouTube and you're wondering how you can support, if you want to support the uploads and stuff. Basically, by supporting on Patreon, it means I can create more content, I can monetize more content, and we can put that, you know, we can use that to put back into the StarCraft 2 community again, creating a very kind of friendly and healthy cycle of just StarCraft 2 content. So if you want to support, like I say, 100% of what you pledge on Patreon goes directly into the tournament prize pools of our events. That's patreon.com/WardiTV. So do check that out. Map 3 here. As we get this ready to go, it is not going to be proxy racks this time around. We will see a reactor right away from ByuN. It's just going to go straight to the reactor, not going to bother with the Reaper. And we will just go from there. That's going to have our second racks building up and a third racks as well. So we're getting 3 racks from this. So head to the reactor first. Wants to pump out as many Marines as possible right from the get-go. And then obviously he has just as many units as possible to make this 3 racks extremely scary. So that's the game plan right now. That's how we set up. Let's see what exactly Serral's response to that might be. Like I say, we get this underway for the moment. Setting up right now. Just going to be seeing our lane kind of backing up a little bit. A couple of Marines are coming across the map as well. does get turned around and just going to be seeing the third barracks going to be finishing shortly. Also, orbital command also coming through, and just going to be seeing that link speed will be. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I would have muted, but that completely caught me off guard as well. Apologies. So yes, link speed's coming up, and for Serral, it's a question of actually figuring out whether it's 2 racks or 3 racks would be really nice, because the response changes a bit. If it's 2 racks, then it's a bit more kind of finesse, because obviously you kind of defend with Link Queen, and that's enough to push the medevacs back, and that scares the Marines away. But if it's 3 racks, it's a lot more, it packs more of a punch, but it doesn't last as long, so usually having a couple of banelings then does help a little bit as well. We'll see how Serral deals with it either way, and see what he does scout to figure it out right away as well, of course, as we set up for that right now. Marines come forward, and they're going to pick away at the Overlord right now. Overlord will go down. Gets popped, and just going to be seeing these few Marines also making their way down to the bottom left-hand corner. A couple more Lings just got shot down as well, and still just going to be seeing a couple of Ovies coming up. Stim and combat shields building in, and the factory going to be ready from ByuN very shortly as well. Now, the Baneling Nest will be finished in just a second here, so like I say, Serral doing a good job of figuring out what's going on, of getting the right respawns up and running, and making sure he'll be very ready to deal with this. Cutting at only 38 drones as well. Usually if it's 2-on-1, you deal with this on 47, 48 workers. It's a nice catch. He gets a few Marines for free until he couldn't quite find a way out with the Lings at first, but he does get a bunch away, and some of them low HP. They will get a chance to regenerate now at least, so that is something. It's a nice little positive for sure. Just going to see a few more Banelings morphing in. Those Lings are going to be done soon, and our Marines are still making their way down the left-hand side of the map. So, setting up, just going to be seeing a couple more creep tumors dropping down. Obviously, Serral just able to re-establish some map control further forward. ByuN is taking a worker lead. You get to a point here, well, there's actually going to be a Ling-Bane counterattack, huh? Or are we still just looking to catch these units? It looks like Serral really just wants to kill this. And once that's dead, he might just say, cool, now I can just spam drones, and you've got nothing to fight me on the map, right? So, there's definitely a possibility as our Lings wrap around. Our Baneling connects. Oh my god, all it takes is one, and then the rest of the Marines drop so quickly because they're all just dying in 1 or 2 hit points. Or 1 or 2 shots from the Lings because they're on such low hit points, sorry. It's going to be kind of brutal as we see 2 more barracks going down. The Lings are still setting up just out the front, and the Marines are fighting. Lings taking a bit more damage as well, and just going to be seeing a +1 attack upgrade still on the way up right now. So getting that finished here very, very soon as our Marines make their way down the bottom left. A single Ling starts to nibble on the rocks. Extractors are going to be... Extractors. Evolution Chambers are going to be finishing soon, so Serral can start to think about upgrades. ByuN's got his extra racks finishing and a 3rd CC on the way, but that's a quick 5 racks, so he will have a lot of bio pressure. Only the single engineering bay is always a sign of heavy pressure as well, because you're not slowing down to take double upgrades. You're just saying, right, 1 upgrade at a time. It's really all about unit count here and really hitting hard. And that's exactly what ByuN will be looking to do as he's stimming on towards that creep spread. He gets rid of another creep tumor or so, nothing too major. It's going to be seeing quite a lot of these Lings actually going down. A Baneling gets targeted as well. Now we're going to stim forward looking for these Queens. Queen's taking a bunch of damage. There goes 1, 2, and, well, not quite a 3rd. A couple of Banelings get targeted, though. They get picked away as we stim forward now. We're going to continue chasing through. A couple more creep tumors are going down as well as our Marines just want to get back in the medevacs. Oh, man. The few Marines that did lift up going to medevac, that get shot down moments later. Can you believe it? Ouch. And now Ling's just going to work their way through the rocks, so picking away at that as well. Early upgrades continue through from Serral. The +1 armor upgrade still coming through as well. And a couple of medevacs are continuing to build up right now. Team is going down. A few Marines hitting the hatchery, and just going to be having a Feeling is unable to really make a play around the right side. Serral going to be finishing up his upgrade soon. At least we'll again just help him with these fights a little bit. A Hydralisk Den is on the way up as well now from Serral, so bringing that into play. Just going to see these few Marines stepping forward, going to get in range, and a Queen taking a little bit of damage there. Queens will force the rest of the Marines and the medevacs backwards. As more Lings run through, the rocks will be in some trouble, so continue to target those down. Marines around the right-hand side will continue for a couple more Zerglings. They do not fall. I'm just going to see the Marines again. Back into the center. Scan goes down. Creep spread will be falling. So a lot of this creep getting cleaned out. And just going to be seeing the, again, extra Queens, creep, all of that continuing through at the moment. It's just a lot of setup going into play right now. As our Marines still keep on moving forward. Medevac will have some reinforcements going across the map as well. Now, Serral's being very patient, not picking a fight on this right side until right now. So he waited as long as he felt like he could. Obviously, ByuN was beginning to press the issue as well. So he kind of initiates even and kind of, says to Serral, yeah, I kind of forced you into doing this. Now Serral's launching the attack. There's a few SCVs going down, but it was only a few Zerglings as well. It's not like there was a monstrous amount of units. On the left-hand side, that drop does arrive, and that will be able to now make a play and try and split Serral up and take his attention elsewhere. Serral, who does not have to deal with any splash damage on the right side anymore, no tank to kind of fight with. That means that these Queens can kind of fight effectively because they're not just constantly taking damage without dealing damage from the siege tank. So that's a nice part of this as well, as our Marines, they're just not breaking through over here. Obviously the Lingbane's here to support as well. As the Queens do start to run low on transfusions, they can't hold this position forever. Serral just very comfortably kind of dealing with this. And actually getting quite a few Marine kills at the end. ByuN not able to lift up and back away effectively. And that kind of sucks a little bit as well. That also hurts quite a bit. And Hydras get rid of the rocks at least as we continue through. Liberators are going to continue to chase forward with this as well. I mean, I like the fact that the Libs are here. Really wants to kind of press the issue. This is somewhat all in from ByuN, right? He's basically just saying ton of barracks, and just go. Not even a ton of barracks, but 5 racks, but really focus on attacking. He only just now recently started +2 attack as well, so keep that in mind that his upgrades are going to be lacking as well once 2-2 kicks in from Serral. But he has enough power to take down this base with the Liberators and tanks backing this up. Serral doesn't believe he can save this, so Serral has to back away to the left-hand side. Now, of course, that's why it's important that he kept the base up over there, because it means that he's got access to another base where he can send his workers to. And, of course, that will also act as a way for him to produce units still as well. But, yeah, nice for ByuN. Gets the first kill. But, like I say, upgrades are now in play from Serral, so his Lingbane's going to be that much more powerful. He's opening up the rocks so that ByuN can't take more positions behind rocks or in choke points or anywhere. And he's also opening up these rocks, which means he can get more of an easy counterattack across the map. ByuN is, for the most part, focused on sending units across the map, so a counterattack could be somewhat deadly as some Overlords here are going to start tanking some damage. There are some Hydras in this main army. Buffs it up a little bit and does give you an answer to the Liberators outside of the Queens. The issue for the Libs still will be just getting into range of them. You still have to take some Liberator shots on the way into that, and obviously then you'll run into tank range, and that's kind of a whole thing, and that's why you kind of want to swarm with everything at once. 2-2 against 1-1 here, so even though it's a choke point, the Lings will actually do okay, and they will actually be able to fight those Marines off. If that was 2-2 against 2-2, that might have been a very different story, and maybe then Serral doesn't want to commit to that fight. Maybe then he backs it up just a little bit sooner, which would obviously make a lot of sense. Lingbane Hydra still around the bottom side. A few Marines pushing forward, and some creep tumors taking some shots. Getting rid of a good amount of this creep spread as we continue our way over to the far left-hand side. Taking the watchtower, Lings are going to start to stream on through, and a few of these Marines will be absolutely in trouble as our Banes come forward as well. Going to connect on just a couple of units. Tanks on the low grounds are going to keep that Lingbane Hydra back also. Man, obviously the problem for ByuN is the 4th base is so late, because all of this was really focused on that initial attack, and while it did end up getting a base, it feels like Serral really came out of it in an okay spot. You got the base on the left side, now he's taking the far top left, he's re-expanding on the 6 o'clock. And now it feels as though Serral is in just complete control, and ByuN is the one that's, really struggling, looking for an opening here, trying to find something that he can do to mix this up and to change this up. But so far, he's just not been able to find it. As Lings run in, tank will go down. And these SCVs actually going to be maybe in some trouble. Marines actually going to start dropping. So yeah, SCVs after would be in some trouble. We already killed off the base. No cancel on that. So that building command center, no fourth base for you, ByuN, means that this attack is just stepping towards being more and more all in, rather than having a backup plan behind it and having something you can do behind this in general. It is absolutely starting to look a little bit rough right here. A few more Zerglings going down. We do see another Liberator sieging up. A few Banelings wanting to chase into these Marines. And we are going to go now. Just going to use the Vipers to abduct in the Liberators as well. So you can just pick away at, yeah, this scary army when you look at it all together. But when you consider you can pick 1-2 Liberators here and there. The Medevac's already half HP from parasitic bombs. When you start to consider it like that, very different situation. A few Marines on top of the hatchery. Getting a bit of damage done. Even if you lose the left side bases at Serral, he's already re-expanded down the bottom right as well. So, again, I actually don't think he necessarily needed to give them up, but he obviously doesn't want to engage all at once. He'd much rather take a slower engagement where he can pick slowly but surely, because again, he knows that his opponent's only on 3 bases. So he knows ByuN is in trouble given time here. He's just not in a rush to kind of do anything. So happy to give up his bases, saying, okay, you deny mine. But I'm already re-expanding. I'm already staying in control of this game. I'm already a step ahead, knowing what is going on and what is happening. So then we go again. Just going to be seeing our Ling Bane continuing through. Just going to be seeing a couple tanks being picked off. Blind clouds across a lot of these siege tanks as the Banes crash in. I mean, now Serral obviously feels very confident. Abducts on the Liberators, getting them out of siege mode, so the Hydras can attack them more easily. The Medevacs are just move commanded into Hydras. I think ByuN was already probably hands off the keyboard or typing GG, as this game was absolutely heading towards the point of being very much so over. And that is going to be Serral taking this 2-1 victory. Discussion about Liberators in the chat that I'll just address quickly before we come out of screen. Because it is interesting. I feel like Libs have been a really cool addition lately in this matchup, just in terms of powering up some of these pushes. And it very much so is the idea of if a couple Banes run in, then run out, you're probably going to lose them, right? So it just stops the Zerg from kind of coming in and out a lot, and it does just kind of double down on the siege position. And while they're not going to do masses of damage, they also stop bigger, heavier units like Queens pushing forward, or even just Hydras getting on top. So you can kind of just use them to kind of stim in and out of more easily. And obviously they're protected, they just reach a bit further forward. So they just extend the siege of the, of the Terran basically, without the tanks having to come further forward, etc. And they do help a lot in the fights, right? Because yes, there's Hydras to clean them up, but the Liberators are typically going to trade effectively, because if the Hydras have to go and focus on the Liberators, well, first they're not fighting the bio units, and they're going to have to run through the liberation zones before they get to the point of being able to kill them. That's why the Vipers are so good at abducting those Libs forward and taking them out of siege mode, because then they're not going to get the value. So I think it's very much so a case of they're just a very efficient unit to add into those positions where you're pretty much forcing a fight because you're pushing ever so slightly and ever so slowly into a base. You're looking to force a fight and just trade very effectively, taking down a base, and then just kind of winning out with efficiency towards the end, especially when you've got like kind of, lack of command center back at home. So yeah, definitely has been something we've seen a lot more of in TVZ as of late, the rise of the Liberators.